Is anybody out there? It's me with Pamela Van Ness talking about how to start your year as your most confident self. Where do you think you should start for confident new year?
Oh, a new year. Well, a good place to look before we start the new year is to just take a look back and review the year with your most compassionate self, with most self-kindness, and look at what went well last year and what did you enjoy, and make a list of that so you can see it in writing. It's really powerful to look at what you've done after you've written it down. And then you might look at what didn't go quite as you had planned and make a list of that, but don't make that front and center. So go back to what worked well and acknowledge how did you make that happen? What skills, what talents, what almost I want to say what authority, your inner authority, allowed you to do that at that time. And and take a look at those skills. What are you good at? I had a coach. I took a course, and one of the pre-exam exercises he had us do, he sent us a worksheet to write down 101 of your accomplishments since forever and during your life. Now, I have to admit, I didn't do it, but it made me think about it. I'm one of those students too.
Well, given that you and I are seasoned, I think 101 would be a real challenge for someone who's like 19 and just starting into, their work, the adult world. And I think that, yeah, for those of us who are a little more seasoned, that maybe 101 is a little less daunting. I think to start with, it would be daunting, but
Yeah, and they don't have to be over the top amazing. They can be things that you taught yourself to do, you learned how to do, and you felt good about. So when you're an entrepreneur looking back on your year, being able to take a look at, oh yes, for me, for example, that retreat went well because I was willing to put the work into it. I am
Mhm.
persistent, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
And then that brings me to looking at your strengths, not only what you're good at, but what are your strengths? And sometimes I find in coaching, people have a very difficult time sharing what is positive about them and what their strengths are. But with practice and dig in, because nobody else is there, give yourself credit for what you can do well. And if you're really stuck, I sometimes use, it's a website, via.org, and it stands for Values in Action. And it's a survey that lasts about 20 minutes, and there are, I don't know how many, but questions on it. But there are 24 positive values that, depending on how you answer the questions, when you get done at the end of the survey, they will order them for you, and they will give you all 24 in ranked order. So you take a look at your top 4 or 5. And it gives you some reflection. It gave me a lot of validation. Some things surprised me. And then, and I've asked people to do this in coaching, because in any given situation, you can either underuse that value or that strength, or you can overuse it, or you can be right on with it. And sometimes, if someone's faced with a challenge, I might ask them, so how does that strength of honesty, how is it playing out for you, or how do you need to use it more? So, taking a look at what we're good at, and it's okay to claim it.
Well, it's funny that you would ask or comment on honesty because I did do that values in action. And my strengths were humor, I know off the top of my head, and appreciation of beauty was the other one. Honesty ranked very, very low. So it looks like I may need to tweak that one a little bit.
Yeah, and or you need to build it up like a muscle. You need to use it more often. And what do you mean? What do you mean by honesty and being able to do that? I've had people think, oh, well, I'm not very good at number 24. One of my lower ones is, or I would say ranked down. Yeah, it's a higher number, but
Yeah.
is zest for life.
Oh,
Okay, that's interesting because I think I tend to be very serious, and yet it's not a weakness. it is one of your strengths. It's one of my strengths that I don't use all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I became more aware of it, I could use it more. And there are certainly times when I do use Zest for Life and use my enthusiasm. But in this particular test of the questions, I didn't answer it that way. Anyway.
Yes. And so when you use Zest for Life, that's something that you can acknowledge and celebrate because, yes, I am using that one.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. And often my enthusiasm helps others be enthusiastic.
Oh,
And
yes.
it works for me too. It works
Yes.
for me. Yeah.
Yes. It's enthusiasm is contagious.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yes, it is. And I've caught others' enthusiasm. And and I'm going to plug in, what else is contagious?
What?
Complaining.
Complaining?
Yes. So I'm on a challenge, a 21 consecutive day challenge to eliminate complaining from my well, hopefully from my thinking, but from my speaking. And it is contagious. So if we can be aware of it and change it, then we're going to just spread more of our strengths instead of not.
Yes, it's looking at the glass and not whether it's half full or half empty, but what's in it.
That you have a glass with something in it. Exactly.
Yes, which is, absolutely wonderful if it's water or wine. Not so great if it's Buckley's mixture, no matter how much is in there. So anyway, we have talked about, so the best place to start is with yourself.
Yep.
And the second one is to review the last year and to document. What's the next step after you've reviewed?
Well, once you've reviewed it, you need to start looking forward and set your goals.
Mm-hmm.
And you look, and I've been encouraged, and I would encourage other people to decide, where are you at right now? Where do you want to be? Whether it's in 3 months or it's in 6 months or at the end of the year. And it might be a good idea to make those goals smaller and then make them cumulative. So, and setting goals and stretch yourself. It's easy and it feels good to accomplish a goal that's easy. And that's a good thing. I think that's a good thing. But it's also good to stretch yourself. What takes you a little bit out of your comfort zone? Something that maybe will stretch one of the strengths that you have and you're not feeling too comfortable using it beyond where you know you can. Why not? Stretch yourself and dream big. And I've also read and heard about visualizing. And I will sometimes ask this of clients. So if this turned out beyond your wildest dreams and you were telling me about it 6 months from now and you were telling me what's happened, describe what did it mean to make that goal? Where are you now? How are you thinking? Where are you living? So if we can visualize it and visualize how we feel about it, then it helps to, well, it goes in, they know that we can change those negative, I won't say negative, they're the negative synapses, the negative thinking. And I also, it was a book I picked up at a bookstore, a used bookstore, and this woman talked about it, about what you want and what you don't want. And her theory was that it is important to write down what you don't want. And so if you know what you don't want, then you can take a look at it and decide, well, if I don't want this, I do want this. But the important thing is to feel, what will that feel like when you've accomplished that or when you get what you want? And feel into it and then visualize, put yourself in that. So set your goals, set a few easy ones, you're good, so you can give yourself a pat on the back, set some stretchy ones, and don't be afraid to ask for help.
That's a big one for me.
You don't like help?
I find it very difficult to, I can do it all by myself, and it's just like I get in deep water before I actually ask for help. So I can certainly relate to that one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Getting some help. Yeah. It's a good thing.
You have to do it yourself, but you don't have to do it alone.
Oh, that's great. Yes. You have to do it yourself, but you don't have to do it alone. Exactly. And we forget that as children learning to walk, we just didn't, well, some kids did, but most kids don't just stand up from crawling and walk across the room confidently.
No.
Yeah, and we take lots of help from lots of people that love us. So make sure whomever you ask for that help, make sure they are supportive and positive,
Mm-hmm.
and that will help build you up, and that you can share that with. Yeah.
Yeah. With learning how to walk, there was, those few people that would help guide the steps and help you strengthen those muscles, and
Hmm.
and finally it came and help with the balance. Yes, it's not something that you can do all by yourself.
Exactly, and I will always be grateful to some of the coaches that I started off with. One woman very generously, she said, "These are the way I send my contracts out to clients." She said, "You are welcome to use them, change them in any way you want to."
Mm-hmm.
And it was such a relief. I realize now I was so relieved, and I'm still relieved that I didn't have to think that up all by myself.
Mm-hmm.
She so graciously shared that with me. And over the years, I've tweaked it myself. I've
Mm-hmm.
changed it. But it was that starting off point.
A framework to start with.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we've
Yeah.
done. By the way, I'm with Pamela Van Nest, and we're talking about how to have a very confident 2019. And we've covered two steps. The first one is to review the last year and both the things that you were strong in and things that didn't go so well. And the second one is to set big goals. What's the third step, Pam?
The third step is I'm going to call it reframe it and rearrange it.
Mm-hmm.
Because as confident as we want to be, and I'm going to use myself as an example, as confident as I want to be, I still have my reptile brain that is looking for the negative, that is
Mm-hmm.
set for negativity bias, and that will look for the dangers and the negative aspects of whatever I'm doing. And self-doubt filters in there.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can reframe and rearrange that, first of all, notice when self-doubt shows up, then I can change it. I can
Mm-hmm.
reframe it. And I was reading that if you fear something, if you're really anxious about something, by being able to say instead, "I'm afraid of doing this," "I'm excited." Because when we get excited, adrenaline is released. I haven't checked whether or not the cortisol is released in our system, but when we're excited, we have a lot of the same body reactions.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever it is, if it's speaking, whether it's speaking to new clients or it's approaching a new client, instead of saying, "Oh, I'm dreading this, I'm really anxious," try, "I'm excited about this." And they
Mm-hmm.
did a study, and those people that attempted their task with "I'm excited" instead of "I'm afraid," they did better and they felt better afterwards. So reframe it and rearrange your thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And this is a kind of a lather, rinse, repeat kind of routine too, is that you do that and then you go back and look at what went well, what didn't, and then reframe it and
exactly.
keep on going towards those goals, or change them if you feel that's necessary too.
Exactly. Give yourself to change it. Someone wrote today, giving themselves permission to change their mind.
Mm-hmm.
That's really important. And I would also say, reframing and rearranging your thinking. Sit down with a coach. That's
Mm-hmm.
a wonderful direction there, or a friend that you trust.
Yes.
And you might even do the worst case scenario. Get it out there and let it go as far as you can. But at each of those worst case scenarios, go back to your strengths. Okay, if this happened, what strengths could I use to get through this? And that might be another way to face those self doubts and the challenges that do come up. Give
Well,
yourself
those
credit.
are great, great tips. And I think that, yeah, for whether it's personal goals or business goals,
Mhm.
they should work for anybody that tries them. I know that I've set some pretty lofty goals for myself this year, and this
Mhm.
is one of them. So thank you very much for being my very first guest. Right now, we don't have any questions. If anybody's got any questions that are tuning in, please ask. If not, the contact information for Pam is on your screen, and you can get in touch with her. So thank you very much, Pam, and looking forward to seeing the results of this.
Yes, and thank you for asking me, Lynn.
You're welcome. You're a great way to start off this new year and great way to start off this interview program. So
Great. Thanks.
thanks a lot.
Yep.